What's the guarantee? Eric?
Mike, time to make history. Players in Circa Million make 5 picks against the spread each week with quarterly and full season payouts.
Circa Survivor entries choose one team each week with no point spread. The last one standing wins it all.
We have $21 million on the line. Are you in? Visit circasports.com for details.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The iconic Paul McCartney got back live. A once-in-a-lifetime must-see event. Paul McCartney, performing a catalogue of music that's formed the soundtracks of our lives. Casey's Centre, October 14th. Register now for pre-sale access at paulmccartneygotback.com before the general on sale this Friday at 10 a.m.
Scott Dochterman, Chad Leistikow. Together on one pod, talking odds and all things Big Ten. Powered by GameDay Men's Health, with locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, and North Liberty. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Legends and Listeners. Exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, and Iowans everywhere. It took us until our 102nd episode, Scott, but with Legends and Listeners is live on location on this mid-July Wednesday night. Windy Wednesday night. I hope you guys can hear us out here. Channel Seed Studios have relocated to Big Grove Brewery here in Iowa City, just a few miles away from my childhood home and where my parents still live. Still season ticket holders to men's basketball, FYI. Chad likes to go to the Des Moines Register here. Scott Dochterman, they have the Athletic. Soon to be joined, we are joined by Ben McCollum, Iowa basketball head coach. We're going to get to him in just a second, but we're presented by GameDay Men's Health. And also happy to announce the Big Grove Brewery is coming aboard as a sponsor of Legends and Listeners. We continue to grow. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I think this is a wonderful crowd, and what a great night. I mean, it's been so humid here lately that it's been kind of miserable, and tonight we got a great night. So thrilled for everybody to be here to join us with this, and most especially we're thrilled to be joined by our guest, who I had the pleasure of seeing him play back almost 25 years ago in college at Northwest Missouri State, and here he is now. After a 31-4 year at Drake and putting together one of the best rosters in the Big Ten, and Ben McCollum.
Absolutely. We're going to start with men's basketball. I think everybody's pretty excited about men's basketball right now in the state of Iowa. At least that's the buzz I'm hearing, Coach. And I guess a month in now to workouts, or a little more than a month. What have you liked so far about where your team's at?
Yeah, no, I like our effort right now. We've got great kids. We've got competitive kids. We've got tough kids, and they want for each other's success, which makes it really fun to coach. They show up every single day with a great attitude. From an X's and O's standpoint, we've got a lot of length that can shoot, and that's a big deal at this level. Not only defensively, but offensively, to where you can create some mismatches with the ability to shoot. Do you switch your ball screen? Do you, do you hedge? Do you whatever? And so then you can kind of punish teams with that. But no, we've had a good summer so far. It'll be nice to get Alvaro back. He's with the Spanish national team, and then obviously the young man that we just signed, Trey Thompson. Once we can get him practicing, that'll be great as well.
I look at the way you compose this roster, and it seems to be that there's a purpose with every player that you got, especially out of the portal. Like when you look at Hassan, from just an amazing outside shooter. Fulgaris can do so many different things. Was that your goal when you went into the portal, was to find somebody specific for each position, or was it more or less that you were just trying to find good players?
Yeah, I think you have to find guys that can actually play in the Big Ten first and foremost, especially when you have to recruit. What are we at? 14 guys now, so we had to get 12 new ones. And so initially it's like, okay, can they compete in the Big Ten? And then from a specific skills standpoint, we've always liked 6'8" plus that can shoot, and that's what we had at Northwest Missouri State. And I think a few of our teams shot 45% from three as a team. And so we tried to recruit to that. But similar to what we did at Drake, we also tried to recruit to personalities. So when you get into the portal, sometimes you can miss on a personality because sometimes there's a reason they're transferring. Either the coach doesn't want them, or they just don't have quite the attitude that you want. And so we made sure that we evaluated their personalities first and foremost, then got a specific skill set. Then towards the end, it's like, okay, what can we develop at an elite level that we can't necessarily get out of the portal consistently? And the two things is length, 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", and being able to be skilled. You need to develop that, and then obviously point guards, and we've got the best point guard in the country, in my opinion, in Bennett Sturts. And so we were able to get a pretty good roster together, having to recruit the whole thing, and obviously having those guys come with me helps as well.
I want to walk our audience and our listeners through something. So we got to look at Iowa men's basketball practice yesterday. It's a brief window, but it's pretty eye-opening. You get to learn quite a bit about just the feel of the team. A couple things stood out. First of all, I felt like these guys play hard. These guys are in each other's space. I know defense has not been the strongest suit of Iowa men's basketball of late, but I had noticed a distinct difference in the way you guys defend. Bennett Sturts is just it's practice, guys, and it's like he's right on top of the guy he's guarding, and that's pretty impressive. I know that's a real emphasis of the way you teach.
Yeah, we've always been just kind of a brief history of how we are, so that it kind of give you. Help you understand exactly what we're going to try to do and be. Mm-hmm. Initially, I played for a coach in college that was very defensive-minded, and so I kind of took that on, and our early teams were really good defensively and super physical, and that's how we won a lot of basketball games. And so eventually I was like, okay, so if we put the ball in the basket more, that's going to help set our defense, which ultimately is going to help our defense. and so because the other team's not scoring in transition consistently. So then we tried to recruit to shooting, and then the length piece of it eats up a lot of space on the floor. You can get your hands on a lot of passes, get a lot of deflections, etc. So eventually we evolved into being the best offense in the country. And so, from the outside looking in, a lot of people would say, just having known our Northwest Missouri State teams, that we're one of the best offenses in the country. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, what we try to do is defend, and then we try to be super efficient offensively so we can set our defense. And if the ball doesn't go in our basket, their basket, very often, then generally we win the game. And so
good what you plan. I like that. It's good coaching.
So what you saw in practice too is I'm naturally pretty high energy and for sure very intense, and I want my guys to be intense. I want them to enjoy being intense. And the Big Ten is, you don't just go in and be good and win. You got to have some teeth to you. You got to be physical. You have to have some fight to you. You have to take it to that next level, and that's how we do it is in our practices with a level of intensity and physicality and toughness that hopefully we'll see once the games roll around.
Mm-hmm. When I look at your last 9 years at Northwest Missouri State, and you never averaged below 73 points a game, you allowed only 65 plus points once. Every year you shot 50% greater, and only 1 year did your opponent actually make 45% or more. What is it about that efficiency how do you get a team to play with that kind of efficiency? And is it something that you have to develop in June, in July, and even late, earlier, to put them in that position? And how do they take to that coaching to where it becomes part of their personality?
Yeah, I think your first thing is you have to recruit to it. So you have to recruit smart basketball players, and the way you recruit smart basketball players is you have to trust your own eyes. You have to trust your evaluations, and you can't necessarily trust rankings or anything like that. You just, okay, what do I see, and how does that fit within our program? So recruiting first, and then after that you get kids there, and now it's a lot of role definition. And so if we, and we do it a little bit different, we try not to say don't do things. And so a lot of coaches are like, don't take that shot, don't make that pass. We try to work from the positives. Hey, we want to encourage the behavior that we want. And so, if a guy's a good shooter, we want him to shoot it every time he's got to look. If a guy can drive, we want him to drive. And so naturally it takes their weaknesses away, And then you kind of build the system based on that personnel and those specific roles to create what we call gravity, within that defense. So basically, if they're scared of something, like teams will be scared of Bennett Sturts, they're going to put 2 on the ball. Once they put 2 on the ball, now we play 4-on-3 or 3-on-2 or 2-on-1 behind the ball. And so then we get teams in rotation. But the best way to do that is through your role definition and helping guys understand what they're great at.
So when I watched practice yesterday, again, folks, this was probably like 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes of scrimmaging, so it's not a huge window, but I was like, Bennett Sturts looked okay. But then I walked away and I thought about it, and I was like, okay, Brendan Hawson just hit 6 3-pointers, and Bennett Sturts didn't take 1 shot. I think all 6 were assists by Bennett Sturts, where he was creating space, whipping the ball across. Is that kind of the Bennett Sturts? Is that why Bennett Sturts is so good? Is he just completely selfless? That's the thing I took away after I thought about it a little bit more.
Yeah, he just wants to win. I mean, he's extremely unselfish. He'd rather go into a game and have 0 points and have a few assists and everybody else score 15. Like, that's just his personality. That's what makes him great. But his IQ and his feel to be able to punish a defense is what makes him elite. It's try to find a way to win, and that's what we do, plus minus for the whole 5-6 weeks up to this point. And so basically, when he's on the floor, his team wins more than any team or any other player in our entire program. And it's been that way for 2 years. And sometimes there's fluctuations in it, but he's always the best.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, what's he good at? It's winning. And I think that
works.
I think that's an important quality to have. But and then the ease of playing with him, because the ball always finds where it's supposed to find. He's very difficult to pressure, and then guys just love playing for him and competing for him. Now, when the game's on the line, you're going to probably see him shooting, so don't worry about that. Otherwise, I'll take him out of the game if he doesn't shoot it.
Yeah, he found the hot hand, though, right? Like, Brendan was hot yesterday when we were there.
Yeah.
He just found him. He kept finding him, and it's like, I'm sure the other guys knew that he was hot, but he found him.
Yeah. No, a lot of times he's finding little pockets for our big, and then our big's making the pass.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
It's all about how do you get to the paint, to the lane. You're trying to attack the paint, or the lane is what we call the paint. Once we get there, now it shrinks the defense. The defense now our offense can kind of play in rotations, and that's what was happening yesterday. And then Brendan was the beneficiary of a lot of that.
He can shoot.
Oh, yeah, his ball goes in, as we say in the coaching profession. Now, the day before, he didn't make as many, but he was shooting from darn near half court. So he dialed it in yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
One of the things I was most impressed with in watching your team last year at Drake was, especially when you got to the NCAA tournament and in the game, against Mizzou and then against Texas Tech, was the talent is pretty high at those two schools. Obviously, Texas Tech was tremendous. Yet you were finding ways, and your team was finding ways to adjust to where maybe there were athletic deficiencies at some points, but yet finding ways to remain efficient, to move the ball, to do things, and take advantage of mismatches. How do you see the game when you see a team that's maybe athletically at such a high tier and yet finding ways to win? How did you accomplish that, and how does your team buy into that philosophy to enable that to be competitive and in winning a lot of those Division I match or Power Conference matchups you did last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think your first thing, obviously, is like we talked about just a second ago, is recruiting. You got to recruit the right kids, recruit kids that want to win, recruit unselfish kids. And then after that, it's, can I develop a level of toughness over 2, 3, and for that, there was 4- and 5-year kids in that program that believed that they can win, and they're just physical and tough and relentless and just keep coming at you, and their will to win might be greater than somebody that's been in a program for 6 months, essentially. And so those matchups were really good for us because, when our guys drive and somebody helps, we pass the ball. And some teams that we would play, when they drive and people help, they don't pass the ball. So you know, and so when you're on the road and you're recruiting, can a guy pass? Does he make the extra pass? How quickly does it come out of his hands? And then you can just punish so many different things with that because the ball moves how it's supposed to move. And so, you know, that's what, it was funny, I was talking to somebody over there, and Caitlin Clark's out from her game, but her greatest quality is her ability to pass the basketball. It's not scoring. Scoring, she's obviously elite, but it's to pass, and it comes out on time, on target. And, you know, that's what we try to do is make sure that we get guys that can pass the ball and move the ball appropriately.
Thanks for the beer delivery. This is an NA for those I don't drink, but they took care of me here. NA IPA. I don't know what that is.
I don't know either.
You could give it a try.
It looks maybe like Yeti.
So, oh, by the way, I didn't want to forget. Hawk fans are pretty nuts, you know. They love their Hawks. There is a Aussie doodle out here. There's a dog here whose name is Cooper DeJean. I'm not kidding. 15 months old. There he is, right there. His name's Cooper DeJean, and he's 15 months old. So he's working on a fair catch signal, I hear.
We played pickup versus Cooper DeJean.
That's what I heard.
And he was 0-5, and I was 5-0. So maybe the dog should now be called Ben McCollum.
Yeah. So I talked to you over in Omaha, and I was like, oh, how are you going to play? Because you said, I don't know how we're going to play. You said, I got to get eyes on my guys before I know exactly how we're going to play this year. You know, now you've had 15 practices? I don't know, something like that. You have an idea of how you're going to play this season now that you've seen your guys? I know Fulgaris isn't here yet. Trey Thompson, haven't gotten him acclimated yet. But do you have an idea now how you're going to play? And can you tell everybody how you're going to play?
Hopefully we win. That would be the first way. I think I shared it, obviously, in the press conference. I think our first thing is the reason we've won so many games over the years is the energy and effort and toughness that we play with, kind of that servant mentality. So that's number one. Number two, from an X's and O's standpoint, I think sometimes people kind of mistake last year's Drake team. That's why I always say ultimately we're going to try to play a winning style of basketball, whatever that is. Last year's Drake team was pretty unique because we just had a lot of, really just physical, tough kids, but their skill set wasn't great. And in regards to shooting, we just didn't have enough shooters. We had shooters, we just didn't have enough. So we have 2 or 3 shooters, and so naturally the game slows down because we can't get a shot at the rim.
Yeah, sure.
If you go back to a lot of our teams at Northwest Missouri State, there was one year we shot 46% from 3 as a team, not just one player, as a team, and made 11 a game. And I think we might have averaged 82 points a game. So that's our preferred style of play.
Yeah.
And we did that through a lot of times playing 5 shooters. And, we'd have, a bunch of 6'8" guys that all could shoot at an elite level. We'd have a couple point guards out there that could play make. And, we just caused a lot of problems with our ability to pass and some of the mismatches that we would create with that. So there'd be an efficiency with it. The offense, no matter what, will feel faster than you'd expect because the ball pops so quickly.
The ball movement yesterday was incredible.
Yes.
For how little you guys have been together, I was really impressed at that.
Yes. And now defensively, what'll be a little bit unique is sometimes our defense accidentally slows the game down because it's difficult to get a shot against us early in the possession. And if you take early average and then we go become efficient on our end, that's not going to work. That's not going to work in your favor. And so sometimes the game slows down with our defense as well. But ultimately, we'd like to play like we did at Northwest, where the ball pops, it moves very, very quickly. We create little mismatches, we get you in rotation, and then obviously we shoot a lot of threes and make a lot of threes and get a lot of layups on top of that.
Sounds like an annoying style to play against, so that's probably good, right?
Well, it's a winning style. Is what we try to. Now, again, it just depends on what you have from a skill set perspective. If we have to play guys that aren't as good as shooters, now it's going to be more difficult to score quick in a possession. So you just have to adapt to your personnel.
this is a new era, obviously, of college basketball and college sports where in years past, you walk into a situation like that and it's like, oh man, we're going to have to tear this down. It's going to take years to get to a point where you can compete. I mean, you had losing records your first 2 years at Northwest Missouri State as you were implementing your system. But in this era, being able to select the players you did, bring the players you did from Drake, I look at this roster and the way you've coached that this team is not only an NCAA tournament talented type of team, but one that can be really competitive in year one in the Big Ten. Do you have any expectations right now of what you're identifying for this team? Not putting a ceiling on it or goals necessarily, but do you expect to be a team that's going to be able to compete in the upper echelon of the Big Ten?
I mean, you always expect that. I think that's kind of the objective, is to win as many games as you can, right? And so that's ultimately the goal. I think the big thing for us is we just try to get a little bit better every day and kind of let the results take care of themselves. And we've done that, for years and years and years. I know at Northwest we won 3 national championships in a row, and we never talked about winning a national title. We never talked about winning a conference title. It was just make today your best day, get a little bit better, and then ultimately those results naturally happen for you. I would think from a competitive standpoint, we've got 6 guys that, played in an NCAA tournament. I guess 5 guys that actually played in the NCAA tournament and won a game in the NCAA tournament versus a very good team. And our net ranking was pretty good. And I think we went 3 or 4-1 versus Power 5 competition. So I'd like to think that you can compete at that level. And I think we've got one of the better point guards in the country. So I would think so. I would hope so. It's funny. My old head coach used to tell me, he's like, we'd make goals before the season, and they were like, well, one of my guys said, I'd like to be 25-4. And my head coach said to him, and he said, well, which 4 games do you plan on losing? Yeah. And so, ultimately your objective is to win as many games as you can, but you don't really think of it like that.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't saying, well, it's okay if we get swept by Missouri Western. I'm sure Tapmeyer was really happy about it.
He wasn't. They asked me that last year at Drake when it was like, I don't know what we were, 25-2 or 3 or something like that. And they said, well, did you expect? No, I expected to win every game. What do you expect to lose? That's your objective. Now, ultimately, is it going to happen like that? I don't know, but you just don't really think like that.
Sure. Let's talk about a few more of your players before we let you go. We appreciate your generous time here, Coach, on a Wednesday night. I know you got to recruit tomorrow, right? Isn't that kind of the
Yes, got to go to Augusta, Georgia tomorrow. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time tonight. But a guy that really impressed me yesterday, and I know Bryson Williams, when we talked to him yesterday, was really high on the freshman. I was super high on Trevin Yerock. Now, is that an aberration that I saw in practice yesterday, or has he been playing that well for you guys so far?
He's pretty good. He had a good day yesterday, especially when you were there. He had a really good team. He had a really good team in practice too, to where he's able to trigger offense. I think the thing that makes him unique is he's 6'11".
Yeah.
He is a worker. He can really pass it. He can really pass it. He can shoot it. He can do all those different things. He can finish at the rim. He understands how to trigger offense, meaning he can get from one action to the next action very, very quickly. And so he fits exactly what we like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he shot a 3 yesterday or made a 3, but he can really shoot. Shot 38% in high school. So he's exactly the kind of kids that we like to have, those unique matchup problems, because when he sets a screen, you don't really know what to do, because if let's just say you hedge or you're in some type of drop or whatever it may be, and you pass back, well, he can shoot the 3. If you switch, he can post. And then on top of it, with the movement away from the ball, he can really pass and find openings. So, he's been good. And honestly, it's probably benefited the most that Alvaro hasn't been here, because he's been able to develop even more than he would have if Alvaro was here.
Sure. Tavion Banks wasn't there yesterday. Is he okay? Is there any update on his status?
Yeah, just banged up a little bit.
Okay.
Yep. No, he's good. He's had a great.
That's what I heard. He's been really good this summer.
Yeah, he guards every position. He guards 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's freakishly athletic, and he kind of gives us our I don't know, for lack of the kind of that alpha presence where he's just he's a bully on the floor, and he's been a great leader for this preseason, or I'm sorry, for the summer as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, well, I'm sure growing up in Storm Lake and you figuring you're going to coach a guy named Tavion Banks, you're probably thinking of a different Tavion Banks.
I know people ask him all the time. He doesn't have a clue, but now he does. But I knew Tavion Banks right away. I'm like, well, I know who that is. So. What was the number? Is it 21?
22.
22. Gosh, I was going to say 22. God darn it.
Yeah.
Pointed in myself.
One of us out of us three let him score a touchdown in high school.
That's right.
Well, but,
Yeah, you can tell I'm not a football player.
Never scored on me.
Didn't score on you. You know who he scored on. But the one thing I wanted to ask you about was last year, the attendance has kind of waned at Iowa. Last year was, pretty low. I know that was something that you discussed, that Beth Getz has discussed several times about bringing back fans. There was I guess there's going to be now some sort of an end zone, and the baseline for students. What do you expect now for attendance? I know you're coming out, you're doing these events, you're bringing people together, kind of an interest is growing. What do you hope happens now with the attendance at Iowa, and especially with the student section now going to be at the baseline?
Yeah, I mean, to get fans there and to get fans that cheer. I mean, that's kind of what we want. You could kind of do it one of two ways, and we've done it at two separate places. And at Drake, it was a little unique when we started. There wasn't a lot of fan interest initially, and then all of a sudden we started winning and people started coming, and so it was like, okay, if you want us to prove it, then we'll prove it, and then make sure that you come once we prove it.
Yeah.
Or we can do the other thing, which I would prefer. The other part to this is when we talk about it being a Hawkeye State, are we talking about just being fans of the University of Iowa? A lot of the best programs in the country, from a basketball, football, whatever sport it is perspective, keep coming no matter what happens. And so what we would like is for fans to be a part of the build and come early, come often, and be there from the start. I remember when we were at Northwest Missouri State and we lost. My first year we were awful. I think we were 12-15 or something like that. But I have a picture of like our bench. There was 3 or 4 of us assistants, or a head coach, and then 3 or 4, like we had graduate assistants and 1 full-time assistant. And all of us actually had our hands in our heads. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did we do? And the cool part about it, though, was there was about 10 people that were there, and that was about it. And there was a lot of empty seats in the background. And then we fast forwarded to 3-4 years down the road. Those same 10 people were there, and it was full. And so we would prefer it to be full initially, so everybody's on board right away, and let's go and let's see if we can build this thing and create an environment that's cool, like create a home atmosphere. Everybody likes when everyone else cheers. It just makes more people come, to be quite honest. And so we're hoping for that right away.
Coach Ben McCollum, we appreciate you taking almost 30 minutes tonight. It was a little longer than we advertised, but appreciate you taking all this time. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to the fans for coming out. Yeah, you bet, man. Take care. Good luck recruiting.
I actually got to go to. I'm going to go eat at the Big Grove in Solon right now. So.
There you go. It's a Big Grove night for Ben McCollum.
Exactly.
All right. We appreciate it.
Good to see you.
All right. Hey, thanks, man.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And thanks for the beers there. Even though it hits well, the NAs do. Scott, how's yours going down?
Well, it's not an NA, but it hits well too. So hopefully not too well here after a couple more.
Well, there is some video from practice of Ben McCollum lighting it up at practice. So it wouldn't surprise me if he has been visiting GameDay Men's Health, because that's what GameDay Men's Health is all about. They help you feel like you're in your 20s again, play basketball like you're in your 20s again. One thing for sure, as we age as men, testosterone levels can wane, and GameDay Men's Health is there to get you back in the game. Get connected with GameDay Men's Health. We've got one up here in North Liberty. I go to the one in Clive. There's also one in Ankeny, of course. That's kind of the big. Have you ever been there? That's like kind of the big, like the home base almost. It's a huge place. So get connected with them with a private, no obligation, free consultation. GameDay Men's Health, presenting sponsor of Legends. They help us bring this show to you guys, as did Big Grove tonight. Another one of our sponsors, Circus Sports, we'll be talking about later in the show. So we appreciate them making this happen. Thanks for Ben McCollum. I think he's on the way out for coming. He forgot his beer, Scott. You're going to have to finish that for him.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have I've only had my shot a couple of days ago, Chad, so I don't know. Maybe I should avoid that. But no, I can't say enough good things, as you know, about GameDay Men's Health. Dropped 50 pounds already. Woo. I'm really close to that, the border that I really want to be at, that I haven't been at in a long, long time. And it's really, it's been really helpful for me. And now I'm going through my closet and I'm like, wow, I'm packing up all this stuff, and it's a good thing. So I'm excited about it. It's more exciting to buy clothes when you're feeling good about yourself.
So before we're going to talk a bunch of football now, folks, but your reaction to Ben McCollum's appearance here, obviously the fans really seem to love it.
You know, he's got it figured out. You know, and I mentioned this, I think, to you before on the side, is that Iowa hit a grand slam with Ben McCollum, not just a home run. I mean, he's everything that Iowa needed and needs and will need into the future, because he understands how to win. And he's done it everywhere he's been, and at the the NBA levels and stuff. I mean, there are people who really believe that he's almost a savant when it comes to basketball and how to create plans and winning plans. So if you give him a team that is capable of being competitive with his planning, that this is a team that's capable of winning at a high level. And as we, I asked, and I think it's true, is when you look at Iowa, this isn't like when Fran McCaffrey took over. He was taken over at the worst level in Iowa history. It was really a tough climb. And he did a nice job. I'm not going to deny that at all. He reached a certain plateau and it kind of faded. But I think with what you've got with Ben McCollum is he's able to recruit a team that fits his strengths, what he wants to do, not just guys that we just need to get somebody in there who can play. And I think he's got a plan and an idea of how he wants to execute. And you saw it the other day, just how he can maximize their abilities in a scheme and play hard, play defense, which they haven't played for at least 15 years.
I alluded to that. Folks that are here, I mean, watch him practice. I know you guys are going to really like the way this team plays. This is the type of you don't know all the names maybe necessarily yet, but you're going to love the way they play. They play they play hard. They dive on the floor. Instead of diving on the floor in practice. And I'm telling you, I know people roll their eyes when it's a coach's kid, but Peyton McCollum can play. He may not play this year, but he's not like a bad player. He's a good player, and he fits their system. One last Ben McCollum story from Word of Football. One of my good friends, long timer, he's retired. He told me that he's a friend of Ronnie Lester's, okay? And Ronnie Lester got a letter from Ben McCollum shortly after he was hired. I don't know what the letter said, but I was told that Ronnie went over Ronnie Lester appreciated that so much he went to the basketball offices to try to track down Ben. He wasn't there that day. But it just shows that he's really reaching and, he's connecting with that fan base. I mean, Ronnie Lester was playing in the Final Four before Ben McCollum was born. Right. Yet he wrote him a note, and I don't know what he said, but I'm sure, as a kid that grew up watching the Hawks, Ronnie Lester's like an icon. Yeah. And so that's pretty cool that he's connecting with this past. And heck, J.R. Koch has his son playing for the Hawkeyes now. We heard Drew Thelwell was at practice yesterday, just filling in. It's nice to see some of those. Evan Braun's was at practice the other day. So again, they're out of eligibility, folks, but they're helping out. So it's nice to see even some of those Fran era guys are helping out, helping the new guy out, a little bit. So I'm really enthused just about just the new feel of Iowa men's basketball. I promise football is next.
Yeah, it needed a change. Yeah, you can and you don't. It's not mutually exclusive. I mean, you can appreciate what Fran did for this program, but also recognize it's time to move on and do something different. And Iowa got the best coach out there. I mean, I agree. Darren DeVries is fantastic. He'll do a great job for Indiana, and worst case scenario, it's a fantastic rivalry. Iowa, Indiana, which it was when we were growing up with Luton, against Bobby Knight, and then Tom Davis against Bobby Knight. Those were great matchups we all remember, and there's nothing bad about that. Iowa, you talk about great point guards. Bennett Sturtz is, at least the second best point guard in the country, and Purdue has possibly the number one, and he's first team All-American, so he probably is. Braden Smith. They play each other twice this year, which is great. And I dare say that there'll be more people at the Iowa-Purdue game in Carver than there were last year.
No offense.
I would hope so. But I think this is the start of a new golden era for Iowa men's basketball.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly. I'm not hyperbolic about that.
Yeah. If you ever get the right picture of Bennett Sturtz, looks like a young Tom Brady. I'm not saying he's like Tom Brady, but you just look at him the right way, he looks like a young Tom Brady.
Oh, my. Well, we're going to have like a roast like they did on Netflix here, 6 months ago.
All right, we're going to talk some football. Yeah. Big Ten Football Media Days, folks, is next week in Las Vegas. Scott Dochterman will be there. You're Mr. Big Shot at The Athletic. National writer here, and he covers the Big Ten. We're lucky to have him, so we're going to talk a little Big Ten football. We're going to talk Hawkeyes here at the end of this part of the conversation. But who are some of the teams that are kind of who's the most intriguing team this year you want to hear from next week in Vegas?
I think the team to watch that's got the most potential to go from being really average to maybe a playoff team is Washington.
Yeah.
Last year, you talk about a tough draw. Jed Fish left Arizona, went to Washington. They had one returning starter from a team that went to the national championship. And, a lot of players went with Kalen DeBoer down to Alabama. He had to replace them. He kind of threw a bunch of guys together. He grabbed some guys from Arizona. And they were able to make it to a bowl game, which I think was impressive. Now, Iowa crushed them here. They didn't look great, but a lot of times when West Coast teams come east, that's the recipe. But he has one of the best young quarterbacks in the country in DeMond Williams. And he was great last year in the bowl game. He threw for 4 touchdowns. He ran for another touchdown. I think I really like the makeup of Washington. So I don't know if they're a playoff team, but I think they're a team that can very much be competitive for 8 to 10 wins. Mm-hmm. And in the Big Ten, I think there's about 7 or 8 teams in that category, and the one locally is also in that category.
Let's talk about 2 of Iowa's trophy rivals in the Big Ten before we get to the Hawkeyes. Super interesting. Wisconsin. What is up with Wisconsin, Scott? And Matt Rule at Nebraska doesn't shake hands with the Hawks. Doesn't know who Jay Higgins is, apparently. But his typically year 3 has been Matt Rule's breakout year when he's been at Temple, when he's been at Baylor. Do the Huskers actually break out this year? And is Wisconsin fading? Luke Fickell was the hot hire. So which of those 2 teams is more likely to, be good, and which one's more likely to be bad?
Wisconsin has the worst schedule in the country.
It's a tough one.
They
play at Alabama on top of it all.
Yeah, it just they several years ago decided let's schedule a home and home with Alabama.
Yeah.
And this is back when they were pretty good, and that sounded fun on paper, but now you're looking at it going, why isn't it Alabama State? You could really use that, especially when you look at their October schedule: Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, and then you've got Washington, and you've got Illinois, and you've got Minnesota. So you've got games that they could. I don't know about going over, but they could really lose a lot of games and not make the bowl game for the second year in a row after making it 20 some odd years in a row. And I think what I look at Wisconsin, that their problem is, and Iowa absolutely has to watch this very, very carefully, is watch your identity. We knew what you're going to get with Wisconsin all those years. You're going to get a big offensive line. They're going to play slam ball with you. You're going to see pulling guards and tackles at 350 pounds, slam into your D end, get up to your linebacker, and then you're going to have a great running back, and you're going to get a lot of yards. The only thing separating them from being good to great was a quarterback.
Yeah.
And instead, they scrapped the entire system. They went to Phil Longo came in as their offensive coordinator. They decided to go 3 wide receivers 90% of the time. And then you saw them go 5 and 7. And on the flip side, Chad, we saw this firsthand at Kinnick this year. I mean, I ran for 329 yards on them.
Yeah.
Blew them off the ball. And then a couple weeks ago, I spent time with George Barnett, and we were watching a lot of tape on these offensive linemen, and it just – if they didn't have a W on their helmet, you wouldn't have known who it was. It could have turned it upside down, and they would have been Minnesota State. I mean, because they just did not play gap sound defense. They did not play, in any, way that they normally do. So, I think that's when you look at Iowa, Kirk Ferentz, it might be 5 or 10 years down the road, might retire someday. That you might want to say, is it worth it to go? Let's go out and run air raid. Well. You're not going to recruit to that. You're not going to have the players to that. Keep your system in place is probably the right recipe to have to be able to weather it. So I don't know. I think Wisconsin is the team, but what are your thoughts on Wisconsin?
Wisconsin will be the bad team of the two?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they'll struggle to get to a bowl game because that schedule is just so fierce.
Yeah. The schedule makes it hard for them. But it's year 3 of Luke Fickell, too.
Yeah.
So who knows? I just feel like there's something amiss at Nebraska. I'm not going to predict they're going to struggle, but it just feels like they're, I don't know, like we're Chicago Bears fans, as you guys probably know, but it's like that's a program that's been dysfunctional for many decades now.
The Bears?
The Bears.
Yeah.
And it feels like Nebraska's kind of like that in a way. Like they just, no matter what they do, like we thought Scott Frost was going to, we didn't, but
Yes,
a lot of people thought he was, walking on water on his way to Lincoln. And it just hasn't worked out. Whatever they try with, I feel like there's just something amiss with and I almost want to say like, it ties into the media almost there too. It's just like everything is so like, oh my God, it's glorious Husker football, and they can do no wrong. They're going to be great this year, but then they don't actually go do the little things that like the Iowa team does, and Iowa wins 13-10 back-to-back years with sack fumbles and a special teams kick.
Yeah. Right.
That's the way you win games. And Nebraska constantly finds ways to lose games. So I don't have confidence in them yet. I want to see it.
They have a better team than they've had in the past, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Matt Rule is a better coach than Scott Frost was, who consistently blamed, last week when he was at Big 12 Media Days, blamed, Nebraska for his problems. No, you're the problem. He's the problem. And he needs to take responsibility for it, and he hasn't done that yet. And accountability is the first part of ability that you need as a coach, and he doesn't have it. I think this is a team that's very capable of being better. In all reality, they went into the portal and they got some nice players. They were decent on defense. Obviously, they showed it against Iowa. I also saw them try to play defense against Indiana. It didn't work. It's like they just went home at halftime. But they do have a schedule that's conducive for them to be successful. I think they're capable of doing that. But I know if there's each individual media fiefdom has a fatal flaw to them. I always say with like basketball, it's the national media, and I'm part of it now, so fire the arrows at me.
Boo media.
Yeah, boo us, but boo me. But national basketball media tends to god up the coaches, and so they never do anything wrong. Oh, Bill Self, he's great. Well, look at all this other stuff. But I think with college football, and this is some of my very dear friends, that we defer always to the blue blood, always to the reputation, and not as much to the reality of what we're seeing on the field. And I think Nebraska's in that category where every year the hype is there. Oh, they're good at recruiting, and they get these guys, and you're waiting for it to happen. And last year they finally get to a bowl game. They won 7 games, and you think that they're on their way. And I don't know. I mean,
who did they beat last year, though? Nobody, right?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, Wisconsin, and they rushed the field.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was looking at their schedule. I was like, what was their signature win last year? I don't think there was one.
No. And you look this year, they've got Cincinnati and Kansas City, so it's basically a home game. Akron and Houston Christian to start off. So they're going to be 3-0.
Yeah.
Most likely. Michigan at home will be a very interesting game. because Michigan is in a similar position. There, obviously, last year they had their letdown. They had no quarterback, but they had a really good team otherwise. And then you get into the rest of the season until you get to Penn State. So for Nebraska's next six games, they're all in that category where they can go either way. I mean, Michigan State, Minnesota's in there, USC's in there, UCLA. And so you wonder, maybe they can do something. And then they wrap up with at Penn State and then Iowa at home. And that's going to be, challenging for them because they struggle to beat Iowa. And a lot of what you said is true. It's about fundamentals. It's about discipline. It's about toughness and doing the right plays at the right time. And Iowa this year has a offense. So
we think.
Yeah, I think that they do. So.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Iowa in a second, but real quick, who do you got to win the Big Ten this year, Scott? It's preseason media poll time. Putting you on the spot, Mr. National Expert.
I want you to go first, Chad, because you're in the same thing I am, and I picked mine just a minute ago.
Yeah. I picked Oregon this year, which I know is a dark horse pick a little bit. They're like the third long shot. Penn State's actually the more odds-on favorite this year because they bring everybody back from a semifinal team. And I'm not convinced Ohio State has a quarterback this year. And I believe in Dan Lanning. We'll get to some of that, and maybe if we can rank the coaches later. But I'm going to go Oregon to win the Big Ten this year. Again.
They have a lot of talent.
Yeah,
absolutely, and they have one of the best defensive players in the country, in Mateo Ugalale. He had 9.5 sacks last year. He's really one of the best pass rushers in the country, and there's a lot of really good ones in the Big Ten too. And then Bryce Betcher is a really interesting story at middle linebacker. He's a baseball player and a football player, and came back to play football. They got some great talent in the portal. Running back, probably the best running back in the country, Mekhi Hughes, or at least the Big Ten, and Mekhi Hughes from Tulane.
So who'd you pick?
I didn't pick Oregon.
Who'd you pick?
Penn State.
Penn State, okay.
And
James Franklin believer here.
No.
They did bring Jim Knowles in.
Yeah.
You got to give him credit for that.
They bring Jim Knowles in, but here's the thing with Penn State. They've always got this asterisk because of James Franklin factor, and they do bring back such an amazing group of talent. I mean, both running backs are among the best in the Big Ten. Drew Aller, although I'll say this, in their 3 losses, they were on him.
Yeah,
he was the reason why they lost it. They bring back most of their offensive line. One of the best defensive ends in the country, and Dennis Sutton, great defensive back. So they have the pieces in place to win.
All right.
And then the other side is who else can get past them? Well, Ohio State's the default. Ohio State has the most talent always. They lost a ton of starters. I mean, 15 guys to the NFL. So I'm just waiting on them. Michigan, I think, is going to be a lot better if they get a quarterback, because believe it or not, Michigan's passing numbers were worse than Iowa's last year.
One spot,
I look at Oregon, and I think a lot of turnover. We'll see what happens. I think they've got a lot of talent and a great coach. Washington, to me, is the dark horse. And then I think Iowa is very much in the running. So if this is a year for Illinois, for Iowa, for Indiana, to take that step forward, it's this year, because you still have, Ohio State hasn't asserted itself.
Yeah.
Penn State is still Penn State.
Yeah.
Michigan has a true freshman starting quarterback. So if a team like Iowa or Indiana or Illinois can take advantage of that, this is the year to do it.
Well, we know, all you Hawkeye fans out here know that the Hawkeyes have what is probably their toughest schedule since 2013, I would say.
Yeah.
That was a tough that was a tough schedule. They weathered it pretty well, honestly, that year. You were in Columbus, right, when they all took them to the toe to toe up there. And
that was a great game.
Jake Doozy had the big game.
Yeah.
But anyway, tough schedule this year. But that said, I picked the Hawkeyes 4th in the Big Ten this year, which I thought was pretty bullish. I think you'll probably see them in the national media, probably more around 8th would be my guess.
Yeah.
They're over under win total 7.5. My 2 best bets. Over best bets this year are Iowa and Washington, so it feels like we're on the same page there. How do you view Iowa in the Big Ten race this year, Scotty?
They've got, in the Big Ten, but overall they've got 4 games where they're playing teams that won at least 11 games last year. That's at first blush you're going, whoa. But I also remember back in 2009, and dating myself here on how I covered Iowa, but I remember his media day saying, we may have a better team, but we may have a worse record because of this. And you look, and that team and that league was really stacked that year. But I also thought you don't play every game on the same Saturday. You play them one after the other. And so I think that's when I look at this Iowa team right now. You're playing Albany at home.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah, okay. Then you go to Iowa State, where a place you haven't lost since 2011. And even then, that was double or triple overtime game. It was, but anyway. Then UMass and Rutgers. Okay.
That was triple. Triple overtime, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Single overtime in 17. Same score.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
And, and you play at Rutgers. So there's I would say a likely opportunity. Iowa can go at worst 3-1, but probably more in the 4-0 range is what I'm looking at. Then you've got Indiana at home. Yeah. And to me, that is going to be the game that really kind of determines whether Iowa is truly a contender, a competitive team for the Big Ten championship. I think it still could be a good team even with a loss, but I think for both teams, it's going to come down to that. Indiana plays at home against Illinois the week before, then at Iowa.
Yeah.
So that's going to be big for them. I think Iowa's right there. I really, the losses on defense are going to be tough in some ways. I think Jay Higgins is irreplaceable in that it's going to be hard to replicate what he was able to do. Not impossible, but tough. I think what Y.A. Black brought from a tied-up block perspective, they don't have a player like that. But we've also looked at somebody like Bryce Hawthorne, who was one of really an underrated pickup for Iowa. I think in the secondary, Sebastian Castro was really good. Quinn Schulte was really good. But I think they've upgraded physically.
Yeah.
With Cohen Entringer and Zach Lutmer. He's not. I'm not going to compare anybody to Cooper, but there's some
Northwest Iowa. Yeah. Athletic. Thank you.
There's some similarities there. Let's put it that way. So.
Yeah.
I don't think 10-2 is out of the realm of possibility here. I could see him losing one of those big games, with Penn State or Oregon, and then probably to somebody else where you're going, oh, really them? But that's what
I mean, I'm not predicting 10-2 necessarily. I just think it's a good. I think this is a good team. I think Iowa has a good team this year. I just don't know how good these other teams are going to be on those Saturdays, like you said. I mean, but you get Oregon at Kinnick, you get Penn State at Kinnick, you get Indiana at Kinnick. Can you still go to Camp Randall and get the W, even if they might be a little bit down? I mean, that's probably the game Wisconsin thinks they can win that month.
Exactly.
So that's going to be tough. Can you go into Lincoln again, win, and find a way to win? You got. The road games are winnable, but they're also losable, like all of them are. At Iowa State.
Yeah. Even Rutgers could be that way.
Right.
I mean, they're a very physical team, and Greg Schiano's done a really nice job there, I think. And so, really once you get past the two
at USC, I forgot to mention at USC.
Yeah, USC. Michigan State beat Iowa last year, and they play them in the final home game.
Yeah.
And I think Jonathan Smith's a nice coach, and they've got a couple of really good players. Aiden Childs, who probably everybody saw too much of last year, and Nick Marsh at wide receiver. So. This is a challenging schedule, but man, it's an interesting one. And then, of course, the mighty Gophers, that beat Iowa 2 years ago at Kinnick for the first time since 1999. So, the thing is, I think this is a really entertaining schedule. And I think if they stay healthy, they have the team that's going to compete because they have one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten.
Right.
I mean, two of the best, maybe the two best offensive linemen in Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker. You've got a quarterback that's a winner. And is excellent in a lot of areas. He can make every throw you ask him to make. Very fast, straightforward, fast. And he's won, national titles. This is a different guy than what they've picked up even in the portal lately.
Yeah, and Mark Gronowski's kind of like the Bennett Sturts. Of the football team because he's the character guy, the point guard type for the football team. with, now can he bring it up a level? Can he bring it up a level and deliver? They're both wired the same way as far as selfless, good leaders, that type of thing. I think we would agree. I want to talk about like why you think Iowa can make a run. What's the biggest reason for that, and maybe what's the schedule we've already kind of addressed. All right, so what's the biggest thing that would hold Iowa back besides the schedule, Scott? And we'll get into the positives here right after that.
Last year, I thought they a little bit statistically, but I thought they took a step back when it came to run defense. And they gave up some big passing plays that kind of shored them up a little bit later. But early on,
UCLA game really stood out for me on that.
Yeah. And then allowing average teams to run on them.
That's what I meant. UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA and Michigan State both.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get really surprised that often when I look at like how teams stack up. Like, you pick one team to win and the other team does. Well, that's one thing. But as far as like, I thought those two teams they were like set up for Iowa, and Iowa allowed them both to win in a way that I didn't expect, and that was really surprising to me. So I think that they need to, if their run defense continues to be suspect, if their injuries are the uncommon thing. But,
Sure.
And I think offensively, if the receivers aren't as far along as we think they are, as we've been told they are, then if you get Gronowski's not able to complete 60% of his passes, if the receivers aren't getting separation. And then on defense, if they're not able to stop the run and they're giving up big plays again, with this type of schedule, you can't do that and be successful. If it would have been last year's schedule and you were improved, then you could weather it. But I don't think you can't do that with this schedule.
Yeah, that was probably the first thing I was gonna say as far as the negatives go.
Yeah.
But I would say, can Mark Gronowski? I think he's gonna be good, but can he take that offense to the next level? His completion percentage is not amazing, okay? And the Shanahan offense does rely on a high completion percentage. You watch Brock Purdy for the Niners.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on time, it's efficient. He can make plays with his legs, yes, but is he a 59% passer this year, or is he 68% passer this year? We don't know that yet. And I spent a couple hours with Tim Lester this morning, and he's anxious to see, how good he is in an actual offense, the Iowa offense. He hasn't gotten to see him, in our actual practice yet, running the offense. And so it's an unknown. It's exciting to think about Mark Gronowski, but I think that could hold Iowa back if he's not as good as we think.
Sure.
But that said, the positives. I think the offense could be really good.
Yeah.
I think, as you said, the offensive line, you think about last year, folks, like how they won 8 games with that quarterback play and that didn't really have receivers. And tight ends didn't do much. I mean, they finally got a quarterback. And so that's where my hope is for this team is like, if you put a passing offense with the run blocking that they have, like I think that could be something they're going to score 30, 35 points a game.
I don't think you're far off.
Yeah.
And I love watching line play. It's something that I've kind of grown accustomed to, that it's just like, this tells you a lot about games. And the way that the line blocked from the all-22, and you could see kind of how they forced it and the importance of what they're able to do. And Jennings' dunker, Bo Stevens was just a machine. I mean, really mean, like Brandon Sheriff mean. And Logan Jones, when you see the athletic ability, and I know early in his career, he was kind of struggling getting his center, he was struggling with the snap, and now you can really see that he is as good as there is in college football at that position. I think that they've got that ability to take over again. And it was really fun to watch the way they dominated. I mean, specifically Wisconsin. I was just so blown away. I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this, because how many times do we see them, 23 carries for 42 yards, against Wisconsin, and just to see the way they do it. Now they've got to replace Mason Richmond. That's not going to be easy. And Bryce George is a Division II All-American, but he's got to come in and block, at a Big Ten level. Can he do that effectively from day one? That remains to be seen. But I think they've got a good punch there with that. And and Caleb Johnson was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. As good as I've seen it, at Iowa under Kirk Ferentz, but a lot of those holes that they were taking, Kamari Moulton, T.J. Washington, who I think is going to be, a breakout performer. And
T.J. Washington?
Yeah.
Tim Lester signed him.
And Jazz Patterson, who's gained a lot of weight, and he's really physical. So they've got a three-headed monster that can maybe match the production, if not individually, but maybe match that production that Caleb Johnson had.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be better. I've heard they're going to be better in the back end this year.
Yeah.
You may mention that. I just think, sometimes those sixth-year guys, you just kind of hit a wall and you're just not. They weren't as good last year.
Yeah.
They just weren't.
Yeah.
And I think Cohen Entringer, Zach Lutmer, I think Wampa's position change is going to help. I think T.J. Hall's taking a big step up. You got to find one more corner,
Right.
but I think they feel pretty good about where they're at on the back end. So that gives me optimism. If you don't allow, because think about the Iowa State game, folks, you allow those big passing plays.
Yeah.
You don't allow those, you win that game.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing about Phil Parker.
Right.
Don't allow the big plays.
Yeah,
So.
that's what the defense is built on: stopping the run and not allowing big plays.
Yeah.
Make them earn every blade of grass on you. And when they couldn't do that, or in that game particularly, it's like allow a 75-yard pass for a touchdown. Right at the end of the game when you're up 2, and you allow Jalen Knoll and I don't criticize Phil very often because he doesn't deserve it, and I'm not good enough to really apply that. But I did kind of think so when you got Sebastian Castro running cash on Jalen Knoll, when you've got a guy who could run 4.3, he's a second-round draft pick. You've got to find a way to bracket him or not allow him to catch 15 yards, sure, but not go up the sideline on your guy
And get out of bounds with no timeouts.
And then
Sorry.
kick a 53-yard field goal and win by a point. That's really, to me, what that just I do think, though, that
I think they'll be better in that area this year.
They're more athletic.
Yeah.
Sebastian was a physical hitter. Not as athletic as Cohen Entringer.
He didn't get drafted. Cohen will.
Yeah, right.
So.
And Cohen, everybody believes in him.
Yeah.
Because that's why he's going to Vegas.
Yeah.
Because that's all leadership council. That's not the coaches don't choose that anymore.
All right. Speaking of Vegas, Scott, we got about 15 minutes or so left in the show, folks. If you want to stick around, appreciate you guys all being here. Scott, you're heading to Vegas next week. Hopefully you get a chance to stop and visit another one of our show sponsors, Circa Sports. Circa, Iowa's best online sports book and a national name in the sports gambling sphere. Invite you to participate in the Circa Millions and Circa Survivor contests, the biggest pro football handicapping contest in the world. Circa Millions has a guaranteed prize pool of at least $6 million. Circa Survivor, $15 million. More details at circasports.com. Keep listening to Iowa Everywhere, as many of our hosts and shows will be coming to you live from Circa Resort and Casino out in Vegas, I think next week, right? Pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, and you might even be there too. So I'm not going, staying back with the family, but Tyler Tashman will go for us at the Register. Last segment, Scott, this folds more Hawkeyes into it. We wanted to rank the best coaches in the Big Ten, and this was we're going to do top 6, okay? So the top third of coaches in the Big Ten. We're not going to bore you with 18, 17, 16, 15, but it was a hard exercise for me because there's no more Jim Harbaugh. There's no more Pat. I would have put Pat Fitzgerald up there until he retired sure. Michigan. Yeah, Michigan's got a new coach. What do you do with James Franklin? Dan Lanning's got 3 years under his belt.
Yeah.
Ryan Day. What do you do with him? Kurt Signetti. What do you do with him? And then what do you do with Kirk Ferentz? So I think it's a tough. It was a tough exercise for me. I mean, you got. Well, I don't want to list all the names here because I don't want to spoil anything. But let's start with. I want to start with you, number 6, and we'll work our way up to 1. We'll try to do this pretty quick. We'll get you guys out of here pretty soon. But who do you got at 6?
Yeah. I've got Lincoln Riley.
Okay.
From USC.
I had him at 7.
Okay. This is a tough one.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. I mean, he had so much success at Oklahoma, which is why he ended up leaving and going to USC. And he coached a Heisman Trophy winner. They just missed the Pac-12 championship 2 years before it ended. Went to the Cotton Bowl. Caleb Williams, who's going to be the next Pro Bowl quarterback in the NFL, starter, Super Bowl champion, 3-time MVP. Wishful thinking. I know. But no, I think. But there is a fine line with him and several guys that are just beyond that, simply because can he adapt to the Big Ten? And can he have enough defense to survive in the Big Ten? It's different than the Big 12, where you could score 54 and win 54 to 41 and have their best team. But it's a little different now in the Big Ten. And he's got, Deanton Lynn is their defensive coordinator. He's really good, and they've got some good players. Kamari Ramsey is very underrated, but I'm just not. I got him at 6 based on his body of work. Yeah, but I'm not. I want to see more.
He's 15 and 11 the last 2 years, which is a red flag for me, especially when you have Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
who we think is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah.
So I had Lincoln Riley outside the top 6, which was, again, this is a guy that is 81 and 24 overall as a college coach. He's outside the top 6. I reluctantly put James Franklin in my 6, and I have him at 6.
Wow.
Because I just am not a big fan of his, but I kind of looked at the body of work, and yes, he's 1-15 against top 5 teams. 1-15, but they do have 5 top 10 seasons under him. They're coming off their best year, number 5 last season. His winning percentage is still over 700, and I do have to give him credit for bringing in Jim Knowles. So I didn't want to put him in the top 6, but I nudged him ahead of Riley. So that's where I got at 6.
Well, I have him a lot higher than that.
Okay,
and
that's why I barely had him in.
I know he's not necessarily beloved here, so I don't know how much I want to say good things about him. But I have him higher. I'll talk about him where I have him at that position. But he does have, a pretty good resume.
I guess.
It's just
that's our list.
Yeah, right. So
who do you got at 5?
Number 5, I've got Kurt Cignetti from Indiana
I do too.
University.
Let's both talk about him. I got him at 5.
You got him at 5?
Yep.
It might be the single greatest coaching job in the Big Ten since 1995 at Northwestern.
Yeah.
To see what they were able to accomplish at Indiana. I mean, there was a first-year guy. Indiana's the worst program historically in the Big Ten with like a 30% winning percentage. This is a program that hadn't even hadn't been in the Rose Bowl since '67, and that was a 3-way tie. So no history in that sport, and yet he came in with a lot of bravado, a lot of guts. Brought in a lot of his players from James Madison. Decided to go out and get a quarterback that fit his system. His version of Bennett Sturts.
Yeah.
And Curtis Rourke. And they went 11-1, and a lot of people are saying, "Well, yeah, but look at the schedule they played." And I'm like, "Well, sure, but they also played both teams that went to the championship game the year before in Washington and Michigan. It's not their fault that they weren't as good. They blew out Nebraska 56-7. I was there for that one, and Nebraska did beat Colorado by 18 points, that tied for the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
At least the regular
that was a
season.
signature win, by the way, for the Huskers.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
We'll give them one.
Yeah, Colorado against Dion. And,
prime.
Yeah, prime time. But then, and then they played both teams that their 2 losses were to teams that went to the national title game.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the things we'll discover in September when they play Iowa is I love the way Indiana spaces the field in its passing game. It's magic. And now that they got Fernando Mendoza playing quarterback, Elijah Surratt's probably the second best receiver in the Big Ten behind Jeremiah Smith, who has no peer. They have an offense that you're going to have to keep up with. Iowa could have a good defense and still get 31 to them.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have a quarterback like Mark Gronowski to keep up. But so the way he was able to walk in day one against in Indiana and win 11 games, which they've never won more than 9, I thought was really impressive.
I had Cignetti as well. He's 30-6 in 3 years in FBS, but he had a really sterling record before James Madison moved up to FBS. So if you pair that all together, he's really been impressive. Google me, he says. Google me.
Yeah.
And I Googled him. He's pretty good. He ranks 5 on my list. If he does this for a long time, he'll move way up.
Yeah.
Number 4, Brett Bielema for me. I give him a nod because of what he did at Wisconsin. Couple Rose Bowls. 68-24, leading the Badgers. He's 28-22 at Illinois, but that's he's done a nice job there. They were very relevant last season. What was it? A couple seasons ago, they They nearly beat Michigan, which was on its way to the title or the national title, right?
Yeah.
They've been very competitive, and 2 top 10 rankings in his career, 125 coaching wins. So I got Bielema 4.
I didn't have him in my top 6, but certainly he's in that category. And the Arkansas era kind of, in some ways, knocks him down a little bit. He really struggled there.
I just think it was not the fit. I think the Big Ten fits him.
Absolutely, and he's in the right spot for him. Which is Illinois. He knows that state. He's from that state, and he knows how to recruit to it, and it's working now. I think what'll separate him from me and put him in that top 6 echelon is, can you do it year 2? They won 10 games last year, but Illinois has this history of a really good year and then 5 and 7. Just falling off. And this was a team that was I want to say they were 5 and 1 in 1-score games last year. As we know,
I can catch up with you.
At Iowa, it was 1 and 3 and 3-point games last year. It just works. Iowa State's going to experience that probably this year. Is they were 5 and 1 in 1-score games, and Texas Tech being the only one they didn't. So it balances out for teams like this, and they return everybody. They're the darling. Joe Klatt had them as their number 1 team, most likely to make the playoff. Hadn't made it before. And so you got a lot of hype for Illinois. Can they handle it? And they've got right people, but I believe in Brett a lot, and I would have him just outside my top 6.
Who you got 4?
Kirk Ferentz.
Kirk Ferentz at 4 for Scott Dochterman. Okay.
Yeah, and Kirk, he's going to win. He's going to be the all-time winningest coach in Big Ten history this year. I think very highly of him and the way he's accomplished everything at Iowa. No question about it. And 3 division titles, 2 shared Big Ten championships. And, I think the other 3 ahead of him are just a little more accomplished right now in the last 10 years or so. But I think, Kirk's a Hall of Famer. And, in some ways, let's see what happens with him in Leicester and a veteran quarterback. And, there's upward mobility for Kirk for me.
Yeah, I have Kirk Ferentz at number 3 in my Big Ten rankings. Nudged him ahead of Bielema there, way ahead of Franklin in my book. If you look at his record at Iowa, 204 and 122, that's a 62% winning percentage. But since 2002, that was a total rebuild.
Yeah.
So if you throw out the first 3 years, and 2001 was a fine year. They win the Alamo Bowl. Nate Kading had a nice kick down there in San Antonio. They're 193 and 100, Scott. A 659 winning percentage at Iowa. I think that is remarkable. Just the steadiness of it. They haven't had a losing season since 2012. Just the consistency. I just give him credit for all that stuff. Now, yes, I would like to, if you're a Hawkeye fan, you want to see him, maybe break through one more time. Because, 2021, 2023, yes, they made the Big Ten title game, but you can see they were overmatched each time. So, does he have one more in him? I think if he does, this could be a potential year for it. I think that's where we both are. I think they have the chance this year to do that. I've got him 3. I think the body of work for me puts him there. So who do you got at 3?
I got James Franklin at 3.
All right.
And part of that is
you like James Franklin.
I love him. We're best buds. We text each other, after last year when they lost to Ohio State, and I wrote mid-game James column.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that one. I heard from a lot of people. But, I think, again, if we were talking about a 12-team playoff, all these years, they would have been in it all the time. They are a very competitive program. They went to the Big Ten championship last year. It was a very close competitive game. They went to the national semifinals, and if it wasn't for an interception by their quarterback, they would have been in the championship game. He's had him at a very high level, something that Joe Paterno didn't do for a lot of his remaining years. Every single year, other than the COVID year, they've been very good. Now, I want to see, now they are the favorite. Now they're going to be ranked in the top 2 or 3 in the country going into this season. What can you do as the favorite? Your quarterback has been outstanding except in big games. They had a chance to win or tie.
There's a trend there. Yeah. James Franklin, is he good in big games?
Is it, mid-game James? Although they jokingly call him big game James. But I call him mid-game James. Yeah. But you look at Drew Aller and against, they had a chance to tie against Oregon and they lost. He threw an interception late in the game. The game was tied against Notre Dame. He throws an interception at Ohio State, 4th and 1 at the goal line, incomplete, throws an interception at going into halftime at the goal line. So, but that comes back to coaching. But that said, you got to also look at beyond that. They have a rough, 1-15 against top 5 competition. They always tend to lose that. But this is his one opportunity to really take it to another level. And I think he's got that chance, and his body of work suggests that they've been right there.
Yeah. And, hey, he's coming to Kinnick this year, folks. You can boo him. They're probably going to fake an injury or two. I'm just kidding.
Scuba.
Yeah.
Turtle.
They won't do it now. They know you're on to them, folks.
Oh, they'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, they beat SMU and Boise State to get to semis. So I'm not giving them like a jillion, tons of credit for getting there. I think most playoff teams could have worked that path, especially a home game.
Oh, yeah. They got
an amazing draw.
They were fortunate to have SMU and Kevin Jennings, have his worst day ever and probably his life,
Right.
throwing like 3 or 4 interceptions, some pick sixes. And, and it was like 24 degrees and they're from Texas. And it was just, but you know what? They still got to win those games.
I know.
They did.
Yeah.
And
if you're an Iowa fan, you'd be, hey, we won the games.
Yeah,
I mean, you win the games.
If Iowa would have beaten SMU and Boise State and got to the semifinals and lost by a field goal to Notre Dame, it still would be one of the great seasons in Iowa history.
I know.
So I think you give them that respect, but then also know that punch through. You got to punch through. This is your year to do it. If you don't do it this year, the fans will eat you alive, first of all.
Yeah.
But then second of all, that everybody else will say you're not good enough.
Yeah. Well, can they beat Ohio State this year? We'll see. I've got Ryan Day at number 2. I had a tough call, 2 versus 1. I give Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day has done a really good job there. I know some people think anybody can win Ohio State, but I'm telling you guys, the media pressure there is like New York Jets, New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it is like it's a massive. It's like a pro team. A lot of it is scrutiny. Every single move you make is scrutinized, and he's 70-10 in 6+ seasons at Ohio State. 46-5 in Big Ten play. 15-8 against top 10. Coming off a national title. I mean, I had a hard time not putting him 1, but I really like who I put at 1, so I got Ryan Day at 2.
I have him at 1, and I have Dan Lanning at 2, which is probably who you have at 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's talk about both.
All right. I'll start with Dan Lanning, and I just don't know that his body of work represents to be number 1 for me.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Day's ability to win a national title after losing the Michigan game, it's hard to now that I've been a chance to be around that kind of environment, it's different. I mean, like Michigan Ohio State is something out of I think it's the greatest rivalry in American sports, and it is the most vicious one.
Yeah.
And they not only, hate is not even strong enough. And to talk to the players after they lost that game and then they beat Tennessee. I mean, even like Jack Sawyer, who's the one who fought with the flag and everything, and it was just like, they had a big meeting without the coaches to talk about things, and then they were it never sat in well with them, ever. It didn't throughout the entire tournament, and didn't in their combine, everything. Yeah. And Ryan Day had to put them together. Yeah. He had to make sure that they were on the right track, and he did that. And, they went to the national title game a few years ago when in the COVID year. They've had years where they've lost to Michigan, and that's been a killer for them. And now that they've lost, 4 in a row? That's like inconceivable to that program. They cannot take that. So I do have him number 1 because I think his body of work, win a national title. It's pretty impressive. But Dan Lanning, and please tell me what you think. I thought he's been terrific, but 3 years, 35-6, number 1 in all year last year. Done it with different quarterbacks. Bo Nix was a great pickup for them, and then first round draft pick, and then Dylan Gabriel last year. He's been able to adapt. They've run different styles. I think he's a terrific coach. He wouldn't be number 2 in the Big Ten for me if he wasn't. Right. I'm just not sure. I want to see him, go on and do something more.
I mean, it's still high. I mean,
Yeah.
to be, I had him one just because I think if you told me, hey, do you want Dan Lanning as your coach or Ryan Day? I would pick Dan Lanning. I just like how I like his style. He's 39 years old. He's 35-6. Former defensive coordinator at Georgia. I like his defensive mentality. They run the ball well.
Yeah.
And they get the athletes. They recruit great, and they've got a great home field advantage. I don't know. It was a tough call, but I was like, I think I'd rather have Dan Lanning. But it was, to me, it was, one way or another. But I think Kirk Ferentz being 3 and 4 on our list is, I mean, I tried to be super measured on this. Guys that didn't make the list, Scotty. Greg Schiano. I mean, done a really good job at Rutgers, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
PJ Fleck, you got to give him some credit there. I think Jed Fish could make this list within a year or two. We'll see about Matt Rule. I mean, Michigan's coach, we don't know enough about Sharon Moore, but heck, he could be great. Jonathan Smith, I gave him an incomplete. It's just still too new at Michigan State.
Right.
And I mean, heck,
Luke
all these
Fickell.
names. Luke Fickell, we haven't mentioned them. Hot coach hire. So, and the only guys I kind of had on the bottom were David Braun, Mike Loxley, Barry Odom, because we haven't been in the Big Ten yet, and Deshaun Foster. But it's a good group of coaches.
When you look at the Big Ten top to bottom, I mean, as far as who's been a coach of the year in the leagues or coach of the year nationally, Ryan Day finally won it. And Ohio State never wins that award because everybody expects them to be good. So it's like, hey, Kirk was 8-1, but Jim Dressel was whatever,
Yeah.
And so they give it to Kirk. Dan Lanning, I think he was coach of the year for the Big Ten last year. Kirk Cignetti, national coach of the year. Well, I might be mistaken on Lanning.
Probably. It was Cignetti,
yeah. PJ Fleck when he was at Western Michigan. And in 2019, he's won, coach of the year. Bielema has, when he was back at Wisconsin. Luke Fickell when he was at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Matt Rule was Big 12 coach of the year when he was at Baylor. Jonathan Smith was terrific at Oregon State. I mean, you talk about an uneven playing field that they dealt with, which is why they're in the Pac-2.
Yeah, right.
They had some. I mean, Greg Schiano has done really great work at Rutgers and both two different episodes. So, I think this league has got some tremendous coaches, and to be anywhere in the top 10 is not to be.
This Big Ten.
negatively.
Big Ten's spit out a lot of coaches that have come in with a lot of credentials too. I mean, Kirk has survived it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty impressive.
And and if Kirk, with the new offensive changes, can if this could be the 1 year, the final type of push where maybe they get to Indianapolis, maybe they get to the playoff, if they host a playoff game. I mean, can you imagine, first, weekend in December? Or,
We'll do a live show if they make that playoff. How about that?
Yeah, well, let's do it inside here, not outside, Yeah, but, imagine like the third Saturday in December, and they're playing Ole Miss at Kinnick Stadium.
Yeah.
This place will be rocking.
It'd be crazy.
I mean, any of these places. I mean, I went to 2 of them last year. I went to Notre Dame and Ohio State. That environment is different, man. Regular season football is awesome, but the vibe was just out of this world. And I can't imagine, as great as Kinnick is, and it's a crown jewel, but to have a playoff game there, it's instantly the biggest and most important game that they've ever had there.
Yeah.
And to see that gives me goosebumps thinking about it now, Chad. Maybe it's the weather. I don't know.
Well, I hope. Thanks to everyone for coming out tonight to Big Grove here in Iowa City. Appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. This stuck around the whole time too. I mean, 80+ minutes here, and I hope for your sake you guys someday get a playoff game in Kinnick. That would be really cool, and maybe we can cover one before we retire.
It would be awesome. I'd love to be here for one.
All right. Well, thanks everyone once again. For Scott Dochterman, I'm Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register. Talk to you next week here on Legends and Listeners, only on Iowa Everywhere.